Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. A little bit too loud there. We got a gem of a show as always, and today I have a breakup story to unpack that was sent into writemac.com. And if you have a story you want to get unpacked on a live show like this or a live YouTube video on my channel, send it into writemac.com, WRITEMAC.com, and I could break it down, unpack it just like this. If you want to do a live coaching session, the link's here. If you want to join Discord, go ahead. If you want to like and subscribe like every other YouTube channel says, go ahead. If you don't. Let's get into it, folks. We got 4 on deck early. And this is going to be an interesting story. Caught between 2 women, got to make a choice. I actually didn't read the complete story. There's an echo, huh? Hello. Happens every once in a while here. Still there? Deputy 547? I almost hear it a little bit. Let's see here. That's not always a good way to start, is it? Today, like I said, caught in between. It's fine, but it's an echo. Let's just roll with it. Electric went off earlier today in the middle of a coaching session with hypnotherapy. W547, I got a video that's actually a cut from the live stream that we did, and that's going to come up soon. Maybe I'll send you a link if you want to put it on your feed or whatnot. It's a cut, so it's not the whole live stream, but up to you. Aleph just put that together for me, the editor. Caught between 2 women, gotta make a choice. A lot of people don't send me. A lot of people don't send me this kind of stuff because it's not really a breakup, right? They're doing pretty well. Well, Deputy 547, if you start one, I'll be happy to be a guest. If you're in this predicament, though, I don't get these often. And this guy actually was someone that had sent a story, I guess, over a year ago. He's been a repeat client. And I don't remember exactly. So like I said, this story is new to me also. And I think it happens to men and women that they actually are caught in between 2 people. So if it's happened to you, let me know. I think, like I said, a lot of people don't share when they're caught between 2. It's not one of those things that you want too many people to know because it's kind of a secret, isn't it? How's the echo currently right now? Has anyone else got a take on that? Let's just see where I'm at with this before I get going on this story. Hello, yeah. I am not a sound engineer. That's for sure. All right, let's just get into it. I'm going to drop the story. It's 12:11. That's good luck. Part 3, kind of, LOL. That's how he starts the story. Hey, coach, I hope all is well with you. I wrote you a couple years ago, twice actually. You did videos on them. The first was deciding between 2 women. And the second was, I moved on, received a blank email. So I don't know what he really means by that he received a blank email. I wish he would elaborate on it. First off, I'm not the best writer. Who is? This isn't about writing particularly well. It's just about telling your story. And the beauty of this, I'm not the grammar police. I just need to know what happened. It doesn't need to necessarily, you can have a run-on sentence. Or, you're not a wordsmith, that's fine. Write it in your language and the way you write it, and just do the best you can. So I apologize for that. In summary, I was stuck between 2 women, both who I cared about. Eventually, I lost both of them by my choice, ironically enough. Well, probably if you were juggling 2 women, they most likely you didn't have interest in one over the other. So we have the paradox of choice there. There's a reason that you had to get another one. Maybe perhaps you were settling on each one of them for different reasons. The last story ended with me telling the woman's family I worked with, who I had been dating, the things she had told me about them that she didn't want them to know. Well, that sounds like a big no-no. Anytime you communicate with a partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband or wife's personal family, personal friends, and you somehow think that you're giving them the inside track or they're going to take your side, that's ridiculous. Having a good relationship with their family or their friends is outstanding, but they're, in 90% of the cases, whatever you say or do, you're never going to come first to them. So a lot of people do this where they feel like they... Yeah, I know there's an echo. I'm just going to roll with it. I don't want to start this over. I'm not sure exactly what happened. So, let me see here. I knew this. This is going to be all the comments now. There's an echo. There's an echo. There's an echo. Maybe that's better. So getting back to this, he's got, for the simplicity's sake, let's refer to her as M from now on. Let's talk about the blank email. Before I saw your video on it, I actually did respond. Stupid, I know. Asking why she had sent a blank email. She said that she didn't mean to, as you had mentioned, was a possibility. I, however, didn't take it that in any kind of way. I didn't respond from there. I went on with my life. So I don't remember the exact story that was sent. My memory is excellent, but with the stories that I read, they're not as good as when I do live coaching sessions. And that's actually quite common. Someone can interpret someone doing something as something that really meant something, but it could be accidental, such as a blank email. A day or so later, she ended up emailing me again, saying she wanted to express some things to me, but didn't know how to put them into words. I asked her if she wanted to discuss it over dinner. She responded at first saying she didn't know if she could get free time and someone to babysit. I told her that if and when she was able to make concrete plans with me, to let me know. Another day or so goes by and she emails me again, saying she found a babysitter. We make a date and don't speak again until then. Now, if you remember, you were saying that she didn't trust me because I lived with my daughter's mom. At this point, I was still living with her, but I had everything in place to move into my own apartment, just waiting on the lease to end with my daughter's mom. Now, this is sounding a little bit familiar. Yeah, dating a woman, but living with your ex-girlfriend or your baby's mom, not a lot of women are going to let that fly. And I understand your situation. Maybe it was financial. There could be a lot of variance to that, but you had to have a finish line where you're moving out. Here I go to a nice dinner, discuss everything. She tells me how and what I did hurt her, not going into much detail about everything, understandably so. The days after the dinner included her reaching out to me, wanting to see me more and more, in secret, which I couldn't say much about. She said over and over how things would be different once I moved out of the house with my daughter's mom. Well, there you go. So you have a specific problem that can be fixed, that you shouldn't go, yeah. That's a specific problem that if you fix it, and you actually could have a finish line where you're like, look, in 2 months it's going to happen. I got to save up this much money. I got to finish out the lease. That's a solution-based problem that you're willing to fix. If you don't fix it, it'll be curtains. You'll be done. The day finally comes. I move out on my own. I have everything I need, and it is fantastic. M and I continue to talk daily and see each other infrequently. Interesting, infrequently, mostly just to hook up, and her to leave right after. Well, that tells me that you're developing a friends with benefits relationship, which is fine and up to you. Is that what you wanted? At this point, it had been several months since the giant mistake I made telling her family the things that I did, I began to grow more and more frustrated with the situation. She had kept telling me how things could and would be different once I moved out, but they weren't different. It led to many fights and arguments. Finally, one day she had said to me, if I didn't like how things were, to go find someone I could have the things I wanted with. Well, that's, sometimes you don't like what someone says, but maybe she's telling you the truth. I mean, maybe it was more than just you moving out. You thought, oh, this will be perfect. But the fact that you guys are hooking up and then she leaves right after, that doesn't sound like you're trying to grow a serious relationship, which is fine as long as you're on the same page. Well, I took that and ran with it. I got on dating apps, spoke to, went to dates with many chicks. No one really stood out, so I continued to go to the gym and working on myself. Eventually, I met girl E. So if you follow this, there's two different girls. He's calling one M and one E on dating apps. We went on a date, hooked up the same night. She was really into me. I ate it up. No pun intended. I look up girl M on Facebook from time to time just to see if she was doing well. After girl E and I went Facebook official, I saw the girl M had blocked me. I texted her and asked why. Who cares, dude? That's needy behavior. She basically said she did it because I was in a relationship. Obviously, it hurt her. She never thought I would move on from her. We actually saw each other several times while I see girl E and hooking up a few times. I ended up telling girl M that I couldn't continue it because I wanted to see where things went with girl E. Well, I can tell you right now, girl E is not going to be a long-term relationship. She's impulsive. If getting her back involved her seeing you in a picture on Facebook with someone else, it's immature. It's common. It happens a lot. I'm not surprised by it, but it's not ideal. I saw so many red flags with girl E from the beginning, which led to fights between her and I. Still stayed with her, even though deep down I knew I should have broke it off. E and I ended up moving in together. I gave up my lease. My landlord was amazing for letting me out of it like he did. I had 2 dogs which didn't get along well with other dogs. I rehomed them in order to continue and progress this relationship with E. All right, here's an interesting thing. People do this all the time. They talk about all these sacrifices that they made by their own choice, as if, I sacrificed a lot here for her. I get it, but I know where this is headed. So you're building a case of, look at all these things I did to move in with her. And then when things go wrong, you think to yourself, wow, you don't even consider all the things I did for you. Along with most of every other personal possession that I had, her and I were together for a little over a year. She was unemployed, and her mother paid for her life. If you knew that already, that's a huge red flag for an adult. Her mother ended up buying her a house with cash. Her and I lived there together for about 4 months. So you gave up these things with your dogs, but you also benefited, I bet, financially from not maybe paying rent, I'm guessing. We ended up having a huge fight the day before my birthday. On my birthday, girl E and I were still fighting. Funny enough, girl M messaged me on Facebook telling me happy birthday. I ended up telling her about the fight girl E and I had. At this point in the relationship with girl E, I was done. I just had to figure it all out again, back to square one. The next day I go to work and girl E ends up leaving the house, blocking me on everything, never to be heard from again. Yes, I know, karma. I ended up moving in with a coworker for a while, still talking to girl M. We had seen each other a time or two during all of this. I believe it was like the 3rd time we saw each other. Girl M and I ended up hooking up. Fast forward today, girl M and I continue to talk and see each other. I got back on my feet again, my own apartment, car, everything else. The whole point of me writing this to you, at this time, I still have girl M in my life. God, using letters is confusing as fuck. She finally wants all the things that her and I talked about in the past. Funny thing is, I don't want that. She keeps pushing it. She keeps trying to be more and more involved in my life. The other day, I told her that I need space, that she was smothering me. I had planned all these things in my head with girl M. Now I could have them with her. Ironically, I don't want them. Moral of the story, getting your ex back isn't always what you thought it may have or could have been. Sometimes getting them back is just the chase. You get to the mountaintop, then you got to go back down. The reality is if there's been a lot of wreckage or there was a lot of mean things said. I know that sounds surface-based, but it's real. If the breakup involved a lot of wreckage, a lot of history of ill events, then getting back together feels like the right thing to do, but then the other things just surface back up. Things may be good for a while, but almost I can guarantee they won't stay in the way. Also, listen to your gut. If you have some type of feeling about someone, it most likely is true. It's more true when it's someone you know really well. So your gut and your intuition can be wrong, because people come to me sometimes and like they're trying to believe something they want to believe. So you got to be honest with yourself. But if you know the person really well, you've lived with them before, it's probably going to be more reliable. I got karma for the things I did in the past. Karma has no deadline. It always gets you. Never stop working on yourself and trying to be the best version of yourself. It's so easy to fall back into old habits. Thank you, Coach, for your time. I've learned many hard lessons. I hope someone else maybe can learn from my story. I look forward to hearing what you have to say about all this. Well, I mean, you're being accountable and responsible in the end. That's the main thing. But overall, you were never all in on this woman. You were dating someone else, which is fine. You started out a relationship. You know what stood out to me? And I apologize if this echo is still on with the sound for the 8 people on deck. I'll probably remake this into a video without live stream. But what stood out to me that's kind of glazed over the story, right, is you have these, and I think this is where people get relationships wrong. You kind of put to the side, oh, she was unemployed and her mom paid for everything she had. Bam. Bam. That's a big root to who that individual is. Another part. We got back together, we hooked up, but she would leave right after. Bam. There's some things here. There's some dots you can connect where you're like, okay. And if, and the fact that you went to her family and told her a bunch of things, that tells me that you went to the family for a reason. There was something wrong there. This relationship that you revisited, it sounds like it was probably a high level of attraction and good intimacy mixed in with a decent to good connection, but the trust was fluctuating. And then it seems like you can't help yourself but entertaining a second relationship, and that's fine. It's up to you. That's your prerogative. But you're probably going to attract women. For example, a woman with good morals and values that would be a good long-term partner, probably if you went to her family and said bad things about her, or she found out you were seeing someone else, she probably wouldn't take you back. And then the fact that her mom bought her house and then you live there. Here's the issue when you live at, let me put this in another way too, because I've come across this before. If you have a partner long-term, and let's say you move in together, and they own the house, or I've heard this before, it's their parents or their aunt or uncle's house, so that it's kind of their place, but you pay a cheap rent. When you get in a fight, you're at a disadvantage because they can kick you out. It's their place. They can throw in your face that you never pay bills. It's a lopsided arrangement, and they can always throw that card on the table. It's a cheap shot, but I've noticed it happens a lot. And a client of mine a while back had come to me, and him and his wife, they have 2 kids. They got in a big fight, and they lived in an in-law unit at her parents' house, literally an in-law unit for in-laws, right? And they had lived there for years, saving money. And it was a really good location in a very expensive area. And so they were saving money and whatnot. They got in a big fight. She kicked him out, saying it was her house. She did this more than once. She cleaned out the joint account and said he owed back rent for her parents' in-law unit. And I said, hey, look, if you do get back together, because I knew they were going to probably get back together because they had fights like this before. I said, the first thing you need to do is get a place that you're both responsible for so this doesn't happen again. And it's really a cheap way to get in arguments and win. But when people are arguing, this is what they do. A lot of times they look for how to win. And if you're in a relationship where people just look to win the argument, the brain will find something that's a weak point. And if they own the house, or it's their parents' house, or their family's house, or the lease is in their name, you're at a disadvantage, and you put yourself in that situation, and that's gonna backfire on you. Has anyone else been in this situation before? Jen, welcome. Deputy 547, he came on early. Rob IS, Leandra's always welcome. Nav. Again, if the echo's still there, I apologize. I don't know what's up with that. It's a little bit frustrating. Has anyone had this situation occur before? I would say that, thinking about this, okay, good. Thanks for telling me. It's kind of bothering me in the back of my head. Like I said, this happens more times than not. This issue of emotional cheating, a lot of people, I just heard this term for the first time. Back burner. Oh, I got a back burner. I was like, what's a back burner? Meaning, like, I'm in a relationship, but I got these 2 or 3 other people that I'm like kind of talking to online, or we don't have a relationship. And this would be translatable to what people call emotional cheating, I suppose. But there's a lot of avenues to have shallow, surface-based relationships now through social media. Yeah, like a backup option. And someone called it a back burner. Like I said, people just come up with these terms, and I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And it makes sense, right? And so when someone breaks up, when you're in a relationship that you're not fully vested, or you have some, you have something about the relationship that's not right, you're more likely to have back burners. You're more likely to go, if this goes wrong, I can rotate out. I would say maybe women have the option of that more often than not, because guys are more aggressive at, like a guy they work with or a guy online is more aggressive at saying they like a girl or they're interested. Where I think if a guy makes it evident that he's got a girlfriend, women tend to back off more. But it's not necessarily a golden rule that's never broken, right? In the end, like he said, karma has no deadline. It really doesn't. It's like people go, I don't believe in karma. Well, you're not gonna see what unveils, and people don't share a lot. The amount of people I'm getting now that play a poker game post breakup, where they're actually telling me everything they're thinking, telling me what they want. I don't buy into it. It's a choice to believe it. So to me, something like karma, it's a choice. You can believe in it or not believe in it. And if you said you don't believe in it, I'd be completely fine. I wouldn't feel compelled to convince you otherwise. If you said, Clutch was like, let's talk about karma, let's explain it. There's no way to explain it. It's just something you choose to believe or not believe. And so someone can say there's no absolute to it. The reason that I would say that I felt like it makes more sense to believe that, it also is something good to live by, because do good and get good. But like I said, when you look at it and it has no timeline, no deadline, you'll have moments in your life and go, oh, okay, now I feel what they feel. I was a Buddhist for about 5 years. I used to believe in it. Nothing against anyone who does. I've heard of people that have been Buddhist for a period of their life. And then things like karma, people have their own levels that they're into it, right? So I would never identify myself as a Buddhist. I've never got that deep with it. I just feel like there's some ironic things that go on when you've done something bad or ill and you didn't even think about it, and then the same thing happens to you, I don't know, 6 months, a year, 2 years later, 3 years later, or something bad happens to you in lieu of that. Call it karma, call it a coincidence, call it synchronicities, whatever. I would say one thing that would combat karma is people that just don't feel guilt. I would say one thing that elevates karma is the amount of guilt people feel will perpetuate probably something bad happening. I think where it gets lost is when someone goes, you're going to have bad karma, you're going to have bad karma. I don't go and do that. But when something arises that seems like karma, like this guy goes, yep, I've had that feeling before. I've had that feeling before, like, and I go, okay, here we go. So that's my way of dealing with it, rather than going, where did this come from? Why did this happen to me? Wow, this is really shitty. If you go, shit, I've done this to someone before. For example, think about it this way. This last year, I had a situation where someone lied to me. Not a personal relationship. It was something outside of that. And it wasn't a big lie, but then it became a bigger lie and a bigger lie. And then when I confronted the person, they lied again to my face. And this is an adult in their 30s, right? And this isn't, I don't want to get into the details of it right now, but it surprised me because of the production of the lie. Does that make sense? It's like, really, why didn't you just tell me the truth about that? And then you layered it with another lie and another lie. You just never told the truth. I know, it just really upset me, especially like someone in their, in 30s. And then you got to think about this, Clutch. Think about this. Have you ever lied before? Have you ever lied before in your life? I mean, I thought to myself, I could probably go through a list of lies in my life. I think I'm beyond that in my life now. But like, were there times in my 20s or something like that? Yeah. Yeah. Are you always, we would like to think that we always are. Maybe that's the karma of it. Karma is a way of finding meaning in a time when shit didn't go right for you or you're upset, that I think some people can deal with better, right? If you believe in karma, it helps you deal with it better. It helps you go, okay, things just evened out. Okay, now I know what it feels like to be them. To go into some deep analytical thing about it, it's a choice. And what I've realized is a lot of the things theories that people follow, they're not, all these theories that are out here, even these references to research that's all out there, it's a choice whether you believe it or not. the absolutes of those things can be debated all day. And so choose things to believe in that serve you to be a better person. And correct me if I'm wrong, if you're going to choose to believe in karma, I would hope it makes you a better person. I would hope it helps you deal with when bad shit happens to you. It's not a lie if you believe it, says Chuckster. Sure. But do you know what I mean? Like, someone says with all absolute, karma happens, karma's true, and they try to convince someone. That's not where I'm coming from. I say, no, I believe in karma. But if you don't, I'm damn okay with it. It's fine. Everyone should take a data management course in their life. It will show how much data you analyze has a bias. It's funny, Clutch, because one of the biggest lessons I've always tried to convey to students when I've taught at the university level is the word biased and a biased opinion. And I think if there's one thing you can learn from college or university, and you don't need to go to college or university for this, but I know that if someone goes, oh, you got a degree in history, what are you going to use? Are you even using that? Or people don't need a college degree these days to make money or have a good job. You can make that argument. I wouldn't fight you on that. For me personally, if you asked me, like, what did you learn? I mean, do you want me to, I got a history degree, so someone might start quizzing me on history things. With how good my memory is, I don't remember a whole lot. I know how to write a paper with primary and secondary sources and cited sources and make an argument about my opinion on a time in history. That's what historians do, by the way. So that's one thing that I learned. But when you look at history, right, you watch the History Channel, or they touch on World War II or any of these things, a lot of that stuff's biased too. So a primary source is a direct source. It's an interview with a person that was actually there. A secondary source is someone that says, yeah, this is what happened. Right? And going back to one of the number one things I learned was every opinion is biased. I remember thinking to myself, it was a sociology class. The teacher was just very dry. His name was Dean Manders. He seemed fed up with being a teacher. He had his teacher assistant do all the work. But he brought that up in a very plain fashion, not very intellectual in any ways. And it was the first time I've ever heard some concept like that. And I think that a lot of people right now, they read something or they watch something on YouTube and they think it's absolutely true. They don't think, well, who wrote this and why? And the same thing goes for anything you choose to believe has a bias, right? And so what I would say is, if something serves you to be a better person, like to me karma would, fine. I'm not going to spend time trying to prove it's true or not, because I can't do research on that, I don't think. By the way, let's say we did some research on it and we got these PhDs that did, we're going to research karma. There would be no way to prove it right or wrong. Right? So there you go. Let's see here. Let me get into these comments. I got about 10 minutes. I've so far seen that the backup is the best friend for a woman. I have so far seen that the backup is the best friend for women, What do you mean by that, Nav? Can you elaborate? I was a Buddhist for 5 years. Okay, you mentioned that. I call it experience and maturity, but perspective is everything. It is. Interpretation is everything. And yes, guilty and empathy are big factors. Yep. If you're naturally inclined to feel guilty about doing bad things, which some people are, right? That has to do with how you were raised. If you're some person, like for example, myself, if I get angry or get in a confrontation with someone, which I'm capable of doing, I don't want to carry it out. I don't want to hold a grudge. And I find reasons to maybe go, well, maybe I was wrong or this or that. So karma lines up more with me in that way. You are dealing with a pathological liar then. Baha, I treat lies like tax. The less I declare, the less I pay later. So you're saying that about people that lie to you or people you lie to. Things happen beyond our own personal control. If it's unfavorable, it's just life. Okay. Everyone should take a data. Okay. MLA or APA, Mac. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. You could attribute karma to the law of attraction. You get out of it what you put in. Sure. I was late. Bad thunderstorms took my streaming out. That's history you can bank on. Quasi-angel. Nice. Respect to you. Respect to you too. Where I would say that karma's bad is when people go around going, oh, you're going to have bad karma. I think that if you're going to believe in karma, apply it to yourself first and foremost. When it comes to keeping backups, it's usually the woman's guy best friend who is their backup. Do you really think that's true? I think a lot of times women, if they have a guy friend that's their best friend, and looking at long-term relationships I've had, I haven't dealt with this where they had a best friend that's a guy that's straight. There's a lot of women that hang out with a guy that's gay, that's, not a threat. But I would say that if that friend's being defended, oh, this has always been my best friend, and they go out like on private lunches and things like that, then you should be invited and be able to gauge what's going on between them. But I would say that I've known women that have a best friend, call it an orbiter or this, that, or the other. I'm thinking of a family member. And I was like, are you guys, I was asking this family member, like, you hang out a lot? And she was like, oh, I would never be interested in him in that way. Because he's played the friend for so long, I don't think that they find them as attractive. Buddhism states if you wish bad karma on other you will attract it. I call them circling sharks. I've never dealt with it in a long-term relationship where there was a best friend guy. I've never dealt with it. And I've said before on live streams before, I've got good friends that are women. And I would say if a friend's a woman, it was usually through work or some kind of commonplace. But I definitely would know the boundaries of our friendship, especially if they had a boyfriend or a husband. And one of those things would be to meet the guy and be like, hey, what's up? But you don't go and meet regularly for coffee and gossip or do those kinds of things. There's a line to be drawn there. And I've said this before, hopefully you can read people or sense things well enough when you know the guy's real intentions. Circling sharks. I don't tell people they're going to have bad karma. I just think it and imagine the imaginable pain, suffering, and crushing spiritual defeat hopefully headed their way. Wow, that's pretty deep, Chuckster. I've had a few moments where people have said things and I thought to myself, wow, you shouldn't have said that. But I don't think, oh, I wish you pay for that. I found that whenever I hook up with a girlfriend, it just kills the vibe later on. It's not worth it. As Strauss once said, never kill the golden egg goose. I don't know what you mean by this. I found that when I hook up with a girlfriend. Oh, you mean a girl that's a friend? You mean a girl that's a friend girl? I got you. If you've been friends for a long time, if you're a guy that does well with women already, or doesn't have a problem, there's probably a reason why you guys didn't hook up before. And so when you hook up, you kind of realize afterwards, this is the reason why we never hooked up, because we don't have that kind of attraction. And then you know. All right, let's see here. Any closing questions? I got to go. Thanks for dealing with the echo in the beginning. Sorry about that, folks. Post-nut regret. Now, that's funny, Clutch. That you could do a bit on. No pun intended. I was only having a joke. I don't ever think that for everyone. No problem, Chuckster. All right, folks, it's curtains. Take it easy. Tomorrow, I'm not sure. If I do, it'll be later on. Yeah. Actually, tomorrow I should be on. Yeah, no post-nut regret for anyone, please, in the name of Clutch. All right, folks, it's curtains. Take it easy.